Hello, my lovely listeners. I'm Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns. Welcome to this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. Good morning, lovely listeners. It's Dr. Lucy here. I hope you are having a fabulous morning. I have the most wonderful guest for us to listen to today, and I am sure you are going to learn lots and be inspired because she's a beautiful human. And as you know, we love beautiful humans. So I would love to welcome to the podcast my friend Emma Gilmour. Welcome, Emma.
Hello, Lucy. Thank you so much for having me on your lovely podcast. What a lovely introduction.
Oh, well, you're welcome, gorgeous girl. You know, you have topics that are close to my heart for many reasons, and we have spoken off air about the alignment in our approach to these issues. So I would love you to tell our audience what do you actually do and how do you help people?
So I'm a counsellor, I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm a This Naked Mind and grey area drinking alcohol coach. So in my day-to-day job, I work with women, generally in midlife, who have come to a place where they think alcohol may not be working for them, and they just want to do a little bit of investigation into their relationship with alcohol, potentially see what opens up for them. For some people, that might be that they moderate. For some people, it might be that they decide to take a break or a longer break from alcohol. And for some people, they just go back to how they were before. That's my role. That's what I do.
I love that. So you, I guess, are helping people bring some awareness to their relationship and what's going on for them with regards to alcohol.
That's right. That's right. I started working in this area about 3 years ago, mainly because I was in midlife, as so many of us. I was in midlife.
And you're in the prime of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to come into the most wonderful creative time of my life. And I had discovered that a lot of things in my life, and I think this happens to a lot of us, a lot of things in my life weren't necessarily, that I thought were the kind of duct tape of my existence, weren't necessarily working for me. I worked in corporate marketing. I ran every day. I ate healthily. I thought I ate healthily. I was really running on adrenaline and caffeine and alcohol. And it didn't take much. I think I had a couple of toxic work situations and I was extremely brittle. I just didn't really have any resilience in me because I think I'd been, living this really sort of adrenaline-filled fight or flight life for so long, wearing busyness as a badge of honor like so many of us do. So I ended up having to walk away from my career. I like to call it my spiritual awakening. Many people would call it my breakdown. So I had a little breakdown and I had to rebuild myself from scratch. And so that's when I trained to be a counsellor and psychotherapist. And along that pathway, I decided to change my relationship with alcohol. And it was through that process that I found my calling and decided that that was where I wanted to focus my counselling, my coaching. And so I qualified with a couple of different kind of methodologies. One is This Naked Mind, which is a very famous book about how Annie Grace, the author, used lots of science to stop drinking, and very much in line with what you do, Lucy, came from with a place of great compassion, awareness, gentle, loving kindness. It was such a different approach to taking a break from alcohol or stopping drinking than I'd ever seen before. Before, when I'd done Dry July, Sober October, Feb Fast, I'd always been like, this is hell and I'm going to drink heaps before I go. And then when I come out the other end, I'm going to drink like more than I drank beforehand.
Yes, counting down the days till it's finished.
That's right. Just having a dreadful time. Really deprived. And we've talked about this book, kind of punishing ourselves. This awful experience.
Do you know, there's a couple of themes that you've brought up that I see a lot actually in women who are in this sort of midlife, and, you know, it's often called the midlife crisis, but you used the word awakening. And I find that too, this midlife awakening where it's suddenly like something smacks you over the head to say, you know what, you're not living your purpose here. This is not what you're meant to do. And it sounds exactly like that's what happened to you.
Totally. I had left my career and I was, right, I knew I was following my nose and I knew that I wanted to train in something in the helping profession. And then I just had a few little things happen. My daughter said to me one night after we'd had a house party at our house, she was like, Mum, can you stop bringing wine into the bedroom when you're putting us to sleep? Because it makes us feel anxious. And I was like, oh. And then I had another situation where I'd fallen into a rosebush after a very normal night, like a very normal night, a girlfriend's house. Some people were drinking, some people weren't, probably had a bottle of wine. And I slipped as I was coming out of my friend's house and I got my neck impaled in a rose bush, and
oh my God,
it almost went through the jugular. So I ended up having to go to hospital, and it was just all this stuff. And I was like, really, Emma, you're nearly 50.
Yep.
And then I'd got to that bit, which I find so many women do in midlife, whereby it feels a little bit like alcohol's controlling you. So you wake up in the morning, you'll be like, I don't want to drink today. But by 5 o'clock, it's like someone's taken your body over. And you're pouring yourself a glass of wine. And that was happening to me. And then, especially if I drunk, which I generally only drank on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays as a rule. But I remember I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there'd just be so much self-recrimination and just so much meanness, you know?
Yes, that self-loathing.
Yes. Now I know why that happens, and it's very chemical as much as it is psychological. But at the time, I was like, this isn't how surely life's not supposed to be like this.
Be like that. And, you know, I think the issue is that people have this idea that if you have a problem with alcohol, that like the image is that you're the homeless drunk living on the streets. And in fact, they're the rarity. And the majority of people who are dealing where alcohol is perhaps controlling their lives are just normal, functional people.
That's right. And it's so interesting that we have this kind of othering, and it stops us from looking at our problem, because we think that people, you know, we use terms like alcoholic, we use terms like problem, someone with a problem with alcohol, and we make it bad.
Problem drinker. Yeah, we whisper.
And we have, people talk about having interventions.
Yeah.
Whereas for most people, it's just actually, most of the time it's very private, very shameful for people. It's like, what's wrong with me? I must be the only one, because of course we've othered it, so no one talks about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right, it's generally high functioning, and particularly women in midlife find that with the onslaught of kind of the hormones that come along with perimenopause as well, suddenly their body alcohol's not working in their body the way that it used to. And suddenly they can't, an impact of, a couple of glasses of wine is incredibly huge on their bodies. And they're so like, wow, what's happening? What's going on? I don't get it.
Look, the 20-year-old body is so much better at rejuvenating the poor body than perhaps as we get older. And we all know this, you used to be able to slam down half a dozen drinks and wake up the next morning and just toddle off. And now for people that do that, they're unconscious in their bed till 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's exactly right.
So I think one of the things I've noticed, and I'm sure you have, is the increasing acceptance of using alcohol as a tool to manage your stress. What do you think about that?
Yes, it's a big one, isn't it? It's so interesting. All these beliefs, and I know you talk about mindset a lot in your work, but all these beliefs that we have, and part of the work that I do, one of the key pillars is, let's look at all the reasons we think we like to drink. And when you write out all the reasons that you think you like to drink, those are the kind of beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the stories that we have about alcohol. Generally, every single one of those, stress relief, relaxing, helps me sleep, makes me more fun, makes me more social, all of those things When you actually dig into it, the opposite is true.
Yeah, yeah.
The actual opposite is true. It's like for sleep, it floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. It means that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because your body's like,
yeah, like what? Yes.
and it's not a nice thing, not a nice way to wake up either. It's an unpleasant way. And for relaxing, as I said before, it's like literally you get the dopamine from the drink, and that kind of is like it feels like, and then immediately afterwards, your body comes in and is like, right, here, we're going to flood you with adrenaline and cortisol and dynorphine. And those things together, that's why so many people struggle with anxiety and stress post-drinking, because, in fact, we numb for a minute, but actually the tail end of the impact of those stress hormones means that actually we're more stressed from drinking than we were before we started drinking, and we've got more anxiety.
It is the absolute wolf in sheep's clothing, isn't it? It promises you relaxation, but actually makes the problem worse.
That's it.
And then the solution to the problem is to drink more.
That's right. And also, we feel bad. We're like, oh, God, I've done that again, or I drank more than I said, or, why can't I just have 2 drinks like Fred? And the Freds are unusual, For most people, it's a chemical, chemically, the dopamine that we get from a drink means that chemically we want to chase that high because the other hormones and the other chemicals are coming into our bodies, and actually we just want to keep chasing that dopamine, but we never get the same result.
No. It is so interesting, isn't it, that idea that it's actually easier to have none than some for many people. But our brain says, go on, just have one, just have half a glass, you'll be fine. You can put it away. And so you do that, and whoa, it's like letting the genie out of the bottle.
That's right. And some people are really, I choose not to. I'd never say I'm never going to drink again, because that's way too stressful for my brain. But I have got to a place with alcohol, and very much the work that we do around mindset is that I don't have any desire for it. For me, it's not something that's attractive to me anymore, and I would rather not have it. But that doesn't have to be the end goal with this at all. Reducing your consumption of alcohol is hugely beneficial. And anyone who says it has to be one way or the other is, I think we cut off a lot of people because people don't want to necessarily be completely abstinent. And I think, we're all risk-taking adults. We need to be able to sort of understand what the risks are and then make an informed decision. But a lot of the time we don't actually know what the risks are. And also a lot of the time the risks aren't the thing that's going to stop us drinking anyway.
No. It's so, look, again, the parallels with alcohol and sugar are so common. And, I love talking about the 3 buckets of people. The first bucket is the people that don't care about it at all. Like really they have a glass of champagne at a wedding and that's it. The second bucket, which is the majority of people, are the people that are using or consuming a product, whether it's alcohol or sugar, and it's causing them some harm and some distress, and they know they probably could cut it down, but they just haven't got the tools to do so. Because our only tool that we have is you should stop it, and if you can't, then you're hopeless and you just don't have any discipline. And then we have got that third bucket of people that really have true addiction, for whom abstinence is really the goal. And same with sugar, they're still the smaller amount. So I reckon learning to know which bucket you're in is actually really helpful.
Yeah. And that it's okay and quite normal to be in the middle bucket and to struggle with it a little bit and for it to have a bit more of a pull on you than you'd like. And that's okay. That's really normal. It's not, you're not suddenly an alcoholic. You don't suddenly, you're not going to lose your family or your house it's a normal, a chemical reaction combined with a societal conditioning that we've had since birth,
And it's so interesting because you're right. I mean, alcohol ads are all about fun. Everyone's having fun. Drinking's all about fun. And that, for me, that's my connection to alcohol. If I think of alcohol as it's fun, I don't necessarily think of it as stress relief, but I know lots of people do. But, I think, it's cocktails with little umbrellas. It's, it's chinking your glasses out with your friends, having fun. I mean, you can have fun without drinking.
Absolutely. And it's actually doing things. And I think it's getting some runs on the board because our social lives are so viewed in it. I mean, for me, when I was drinking regularly, the idea of doing something that wasn't alcohol related, apart from like sport, was just something that wouldn't kind of enter in my brain at all. It'd be like, well, we're going to meet up and have drinks. We're going to eat. We're going to, this is it. Whereas,
yeah, go out dancing.
That's it. But even creating, some parts of your life where you're doing things socially that aren't drinking can be just a really good thing to do as well. Just having a bit of fun, doing something, creating an event that's not built around drinking and eating necessarily can also be a really good choice.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, it's, even as you're talking there and you're talking about the creating, I'm thinking immediately of now this new kind of thing that's popped up everywhere. People are doing painting and drinking. And it's, it's got various names and alliterations, but it's kind of weird, isn't it, that suddenly we can't just go and have fun painting. We've got to pair it with some grog of some sort.
That's right. And I think back when like you're talking about, the sort of, when you're in the space of unawareness, when you're sort of happily going along and alcohol's not really affecting you and you're sort of unaware of it, that I would have been all in on that. That would be I'd be like, yes, of course I want to do that.
Oh, yeah, yeehaw, yeah. Yeah.
But it's only once it starts, having a little bit of a, niggle at you, sort of making you feel a little bit subpar, and you start to think, oh, it might be a good opportunity for me to have a little break and maybe see what's going on there and just have a bit of awareness about what's motivating me to drink. Is it me, or am I being controlled by a sort of chemical, which, that's how it's set up to make us want more. And it's just useful to just take a little bit of time and understand also why you're drinking. If you're drinking to alter your mood, what is it that you're escaping from and what is it you're moving towards?
Yes, I love that. I mean, I know that you have very similar philosophies with us, that it's not, you're not a bad person, you're not bad because there's this problem that's, it's really about this idea of learning to know yourself and using those beautiful tools of self-compassion to just peel off a few layers and see what's underneath.
That's it. Because also it can be a beautiful journey to understand actually who you are. I mean, I found out when I stopped drinking, this was amazing to me, that I was an introvert.
Right.
Like I thought I was an extrovert, because at about 12 years old when I started drinking, I was a young British kind of, and I was like, suddenly I was awkward. I read books. I wasn't very sociable. And I wanted to be different to that because it didn't seem to be the right thing. And so I used kind of alcohol and stuff like, to try and create this different persona. And then I'm nearly 50. No idea that actually I was quite shy, and actually, hadn't quite developed it. I haven't developed a lot of emotional maturity around how I interact with other people, my sensitivity. I was quite boundaryless. I was very porous boundaries, but didn't have great differentiation between myself and other people. So I'd let other people impact me very strongly. And it was only by taking a break from alcohol. So I did a year to begin with, and that was my sort of goal. I was like, I'll try and experience all the different things that happen in life. So I thought I'd go through, Easter, Mother's Day, birthday, Christmas, so that I had it as something to fall back on, was the idea behind it. And it was just fascinating what I found out. That sort of spirit of curiosity and inquiry, it can be quite an exciting journey and quite a transformational journey as well.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. The fact that it's not depriving, you're actually revealing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so many of these things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Emma, tell us a bit more about what do you offer for people? So, I mean, I know, people can go and sign up for FebFast, and I'm sure, half our audience have done that from time to time. But that's really, you just sign up and you make a pledge not to drink, and that's kind of it. That's your tools. what you offer is completely different, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we've got a few different things. So I do one-to-one coaching, which is kind of standard coaching, all follows the same pattern, all the same methodology. And then I also have some free things that are available. So I've got an awareness worksheet, which you can download. And I would say this is a really important starting place for everybody. Before we do anything, before you take a break, let's do a bit of mindfulness around what our drinking is actually looking like. When do we start thinking about drinking during the day? What does it look like? Where do we go and get it? Is it in the cupboard already? Is it in our fridge already? Just get some information. What our routines are when we come home from work. Do we get a glass out? What do we do? Do we have a shower? That sort of information is really useful. And then we get into the actually mindfully drinking. So what happens to me when I have a drink? If I start thinking about drinking, what was I thinking about immediately beforehand that might be making me want to have a drink? And then so on. So that's kind of the awareness piece. And I think that's really important to do before you take a break, if you can, just to get really good understanding of what's actually going on with you. And then another thing I offer as well, that's a free thing which people can do, it's a 5-day alcohol reset. And that's really just a introduction to the way that I work. So you get 5 days of video content with journaling and Facebook community. And that's just an introduction to the concept. So it will be like how to love ourselves through this, how to not judge ourselves through this, and then different bits of information about how alcohol actually affects our body. And then it is important that we do the journaling as well. And then there's community support. So that's a self-paced thing. And then I have my signature program, which is the Aussie Alcohol Experiment, which is daily. You get a daily video with I guess it's called a lesson, a piece of content about alcohol, about our mindset. And we work through the kind of 10 key limiting beliefs that people have about alcohol in a live. So we have a live every day. So people get supported all the way through the 30 days. So you've got the community, videos, journaling, and then support from me as a trained coach and counsellor.
Yeah. Do you know what I love? I love the fact that it's called the experiment, because what the experiment implies is that we don't actually know the outcome. And in fact, we don't really even need to be tied or married to the outcome. The outcome is just the outcome. This is the experiment of seeing what happens.
And that's exactly, I love that you picked up on that, Lucy, because that's exactly right. And that's the goal of the experiment is never about not drinking. The goal of the experiment is awareness. So we can never fail when our goal is awareness. So all we need to do is find out information. And, it may be that you take a 30-day break alongside, and it may be that you make all sorts of decisions about that afterwards. But the goal is to understand yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so, we talk about that a lot, and again, with our programs are centered about, health, but tied in with some weight loss. And we will always say that, it's not a meal plan. It's a journey of self-discovery. And it really is this idea of knowing why you do what you do and being able to change that without judgment on yourself and berating, but with tools. That we're not taught these tools. We're just told you should be able to sort it out yourself.
That's right. And 9 times out of 10 with people with alcohol, it's just that we haven't learned. We've got a nervous system, it's dysregulated, and we haven't learned to regulate it in any other way. And so it's that kind of growth mindset. We're coming at it from a spirit of training a puppy rather than going into battle with a dragon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kindly, and we're learning something new,
Yeah, which, doesn't have to be perfect, but each time we just keep kind of ploughing on.
That's exactly right.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. So, Em, if people want to find you, where do they find you?
So I am at Hope Rising Coaching is my business name, and that's also my Instagram handle and my website.
Awesome. Beautiful listeners, we will have all of those resources for you in the show notes, so you can go and download them directly from there. Or, of course, you can check out the podcast over on the website, and full transcript and everything will be there as well. Emma, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work that you do and for coming on to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Beautiful listeners, have the most glorious of days, and I will catch up with you all next week. Bye for now. So, my lovely listeners, that ends this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And I'm Dr. Mary Barson. We're from Real Life Medicine. To contact us, please visit rlmedicine.com.
And until next time, thanks for listening. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualised medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.